So here we go with part 4 of breaking down the F1 show special, where Sky Sports F1 have been contracted to produce this to condition the masses to accept what took place in Abu Dhabi, to make excuses for it, to get you to accept all of these excuses so that you will move on. That is what they're contracted to do. So we're at 14 minutes 46. This is the fourth part of it. And Damon Hill is about to speak. I just want to recap something from the previous one about Martin Brundle. So back at 13 minutes 18 seconds into this presentation, Brundle wants to tell us this. Tell us, Martin.
There were other meetings and general agreements that we're not party to. We don't want to finish races under the safety car already.
So clearly there, Martin, there were other meetings and other agreements that he claims he's not party to, whereby they want to agree not to end racing under a safety car. Well, you're not allowed to do that. You're playing a sport. The sport has rules. You have to conduct that sport in accordance with the rules. You can't ignore the rules to contrive an ending to that sport. Okay? Just like in football, two teams getting together before a match and saying, oh, we would like this game to go to a penalty shootout. Well, you're fixing an outcome, aren't you? You're contriving an ending. That's not authentic sport. That's fraudulent. That's sport manipulation. You're not allowed to do that. You might get away with it if you're doing Sunday league sport. If it's under eights and you want to give the kids an experience of a penalty shootout, this is professional sport sold to a global audience. You're not allowed to contrive it because you're defrauding people. You've just admitted knowledge of that, Martin Brundle. You've just admitted knowledge of fraudulent activity, meetings and discussions that have taken place. You know about them, but you claim you're not party to them, of them expressing a desired outcome to an event. Now, you might have desires. You might have, oh, that would be good if that happened. But we can't break the rules to achieve that. Oh, you did break the rules to achieve that. What's going on there then, Martin? What's going on there? Anyway, we are going to move on with Damon Hill back to where he was. So we'll crack on with Damon Hill. And he's describing the footage played in the last video and the things that were going, I think it was the second part, as being absolutely fascinating. But let's have a listen to him.
Radio calls we just listened to is absolutely fascinating and very revealing of the fact that Michael Massey and the rules and the decisions he was making were changing by the second, and they were changing by the second because he had the ambition of not finishing under the safety car, at the same time wanting to not ruin this world championship.
Didn't want to ruin the world championship. I've spoken about that. Okay, you're not ruining the world championship. Okay, Lewis Hamilton was on course to win that world championship. He was 12 seconds ahead, 5 laps to go. They were lapping at the same speed. Max was not closing that gap down. At that stage, there were 3 lapped cars in between them. 2 further cars unlapped themselves effectively from Verstappen when Verstappen pitted for fresh tyres. Okay, so not only would Max Verstappen have to make his way through 3 of the cars that Lewis Hamilton had already lapped, yet Max hadn't, he'd have also had to close 12 seconds. Max Verstappen was running on old hard compound tyres that he'd changed onto during the virtual safety car period. So he didn't have that tyre advantage to that degree. Providing Lewis Hamilton didn't crash out of that race or didn't suffer mechanical failure, he was virtually odds on to win. In 5 laps, Max Verstappen would have had to close at in excess of 2 seconds per lap. Okay, 2.5 seconds a lap. And also affect an overtake with them both being on hard compound tyres. Wasn't going to happen. This notion of ruining the world championship. Well, no. You. This is sport. This is the rules of the sport. This is how you carry out that sport. You can't contrive it just for creating an exciting finish.
Showdown. So he had a lot to deal with, and I think he
No. That's not the consideration of a referee in a sport. I'm the referee of a World Cup final. Oh, it's my responsibility to make sure that this ends with excitement. If one team goes 4-0 up in the first half, how am I going to make this happen so that it goes down to the 90th minute and then maybe we get extra time and hopefully we get penalty? No. You're not allowed to do that, Colin. You're not allowed to do that. You just got to officiate and apply the rules of the sport. And the sport will be what the sport will be. That's not your consideration.
buckled under the pressure from
He buckled under the pressure to give the other team 4 goals to make it a draw and send it to a penalty shootout. Not allowed to do that.
from both teams, who were on the race.
Oh, from both teams, because both teams wanted him to give the other team 4 goals. Both teams. What pressure was he buckling under? And from Mercedes, Damon, that you want to present and project?
And this is something that they're going to look at and say you cannot have, people as powerful as Toto Wolff.
Oh, it's Toto's fault, is it? It's Toto's fault. Oh, you can't have people as powerful as Toto on the radio. Who was the one that was on at him to break the rules of the sport? Certainly when F1 TV showed to play us the message, if that was real time, which it wasn't, they picked it out. But by playing it on lap 57, it seems that the message was given in and around lap 57, and therefore you're breaking the rules. You're being urged to break the rules. Well, that's not okay. What's worse? Saying this particular incident can be dealt with using a virtual safety car rather than a safety car, okay? Suggesting the correct kind of appropriate manner of dealing with the situation, which is effectively what Toto Wolff was doing. Or saying, break the rules of the sport to facilitate the ending that we want. They're 2 different crimes, aren't they? They're 2 different crimes.
And Christian Horner badgering the race director when he's trying to sort out the race. I mean,
oh, that's just badgering, isn't it? That's just badgering.
He came under enormous pressure. Martin is absolutely right.
Absolutely right, Martin. We like to affirm one another.
He had a lot on his plate, and he needs backup.
Oh yeah, he's been to the buffet too many times and puts too much on his plate. Great excuses these are, aren't they? Great excuses. Martin said, "Oh, I'm not going to defend Michael Massey, but he was tired." Right? Damon's saying, "Oh, Michael Massey has been to the buffet too many times and put too much on his plate." The guy's broken the rules of the sport and contrived an ending. He's part of a global fraud. This is what these people have put in front of us to excuse that.
I think that it was fair with in the past we had.
It was fair with shut up, right? Stop lying. Stop giving us the bullshit. Because if you're not lying and you're not giving us the bullshit, you're not having to flounder for what it is that they're paying you to say next to try to validate this.
Charlie Whiting and Herbie Blash was backing him up, so he had his mate next to him who could help. And I think
he had a mate that could help. It's quite simple. You're an official in a sporting contest. Does a referee of a football match have his mate next to him who can help? He's got the assistance of 2 linesmen and a 4th official. Does he have his mate next to him who can help? Does the chair umpire of a major tennis tournament have his mate alongside him who can help? Does a rugby referee have his mate alongside him who can help? You're saying that Michael Massey sat in a FIA office with 10 people in there, and we've already seen the pictures of this earlier in this, where he's got his mate alongside him who can help. You're suggesting that Michael Massey hasn't got a mate alongside him who can help. Oh, it's so challenging for this guy who sat in an air-conditioned office that's got the benefit of watching what's going on, has the benefit of TV replays, has the benefit of waiting a few seconds, seeing what's going on, and go, oh, how am I going to deal with this? I need to deal with that using a safety car. Doesn't have to blow his whistle, stop play immediately, and make a split-second decision, does he? He's got a few seconds to determine what he's going to do. What's happened here? Oh, a car appears to have crashed. Oh, it's there on the track. There's other debris there. We're going to need to recover that. How are we going to do that? Oh, I need to put a safety car out to make this safe. Safety car. Let's deploy the safety car. Is that how a football referee makes his decisions? Or has he got to do it a lot quicker than that? But poor Michael Massey's the one that's under so much pressure, isn't he? He's the one with the difficult job. He's the one that's tired with a full plate of vol au vents.
I think that it was just an awful mess at the end, and
so confusing, such a mess. Yeah, nobody knew the validation.
And it's left this chaos and
chaos, uncertainty that you guys are doing such a great job of unraveling, aren't you? Or just affirming to us that it was so chaotic and so confusing.
Sense of dissatisfaction about how it ended.
But that's the thing, and going back to what you both touched on there, I don't think anybody, or the higher authorities within the sport, shall we say, wanted this championship season to finish under caution.
Okay. Who gives a fuck about that? The higher authorities didn't want it to finish under caution. FIFA, the governing body for global football, wanted the World Cup final to end with a penalty shootout. But that's not allowed. There's a reason why it's not allowed. It's contriving an ending. The International Olympic Committee wanted the 100 metres to be won by a white man. How are you going to achieve that then? How are you going to do that? Is sport not won on merit? Is sport not just contested in accordance with the rules of the sport and it is what it is, rather than going, oh, we would prefer the ending to be like this, and therefore we will break the rules to make that happen, and we will present to the world using our paid media that that's all okay. If you calmly say to people that this is what their desires are, people will nod their heads and go, yes, we understand those desires. Just don't tell them that you're not allowed to do that. Don't explain to them that that constitutes fraud, because most of them won't work out for themselves that it's a fraud, because they don't understand what fraud is. They don't understand what crime is. Just tell them it's okay, and they'll think it's okay.
Therefore, Johnny, do you feel that he may have been, and this goes back to conspiracy theories,
oh, the conspiracy theory. You know, the conspiracy that Liberty Media own the show and their share value went up from 9 billion to 13.8 billion, an increase of 4.8 billion. Oh, that's a good motive, isn't it? Money, 4.8 billion. Who'd do anything for that? Right, what do you own, Liberty Media? You own the marketing rights to this sport. So the bigger you can grow this sport, the more money you make. Oh, okay, how are we going to grow the sport? Well, we'll attract the children, okay? The future spenders who are going to spend their money on the products that want to advertise in our sport. So we'll get the kids excited, okay? We won't tell them anything about it because they're thick fuckers, okay? They've been given a certificate all their life for participating rather than actually achieving anything. They've been they've been conditioned to parrot the narrative. They go to school these days, they're told the answers to the exams that they sit, and as long as they can repeat what they're told, they're given this notion that, oh, you're really intelligent for repeating back to me what I've just told you need to repeat back to me. Okay, they don't have the ability to critically think, but we'll invite them to follow the sport of Formula One. We'll get them on the social media. Okay, we'll get some of them to be influencers. They'll love it. They'll say what an amazing, exciting sport this is, but we won't tell them anything. They won't know. We'll lie to them. Then all these brands will know that they can broadcast, they can show their brands to these children who will aspire to paying £15,000 for a watch that just tells the time. Yes, the future. This is what Liberty Media wanted. Oh, how are we going to achieve that? How are we going to get them excited? Well, wouldn't it be great if the championship went down to the last race of the last Grand Prix of the season and was settled on that last lap? Just like that Aguero goal back in, I think, 2012 or whatever season it was. You couldn't make it up, could you? Oh, how are we going to do that? Oh, well, if one car's out in the lead, maybe a safety car would bring them back together. Oh, but for that, somebody would need to crash, wouldn't they? Oh, okay. And then we'd get racing again, and it would create this last lap shootout for a grandstand finish. Oh, well, how would we do that? Well, you've got to have everybody involved. All the teams have got to know what's possible and know if we need to manipulate the rules and break the rules to make it happen, well, that they're not going to call it out. We need the TV footage to reflect this as being authentic. We need the commentary teams to actually talk about this and not expose that the rules are being broken if we have to break the rules. We've got the governing body, the officials that are there applying the rules, to be willing to break the rules. Oh, that wouldn't happen, would it? That didn't happen, did it? Because that would be people conspiring to accomplish an outcome. That's just a conspiracy theory for you crazy tinfoil hat wearing people. Oh, you tell us about your conspiracy theory, old Lazenby. Tell us. Tell us.
Do you feel that he may have been, and this goes back to conspiracy theories, under outside pressure, external pressure to make the calls that he did?
Oh, let's propose that option because we're aware that's being talked about, so we have to acknowledge this conspiracy theory. Yes, is the clear answer. Well, he was under outside pressure. You heard the message from Christian Horner. Red Bull pressure to break the rules of the sport to get this race started again. Okay, Red Bull will say, oh, we said that message on lap 56. We were trying to get him to get rid of those cars on lap 56. We didn't do anything wrong. We were just playing our clever cards. Michael, this is Jonathan here. You don't have to get them cars right out the way. Let them go all the way around the track. You just have to get them out of the way, and then we have a motor race on our hands. Remember that one, Jonathan Wheatley? Oh no, I wasn't encouraging him to break the rules of the sport. I just had to say that he didn't have to make them fully catch the back of the pack. We were playing our clever cards. We were wording it away where you can't pin this on us. That's old Red Bull. What about Brundle and Crofty lying about the rules of the sport, hyping it up before it happened? Is that organic? Is that organic? What about all of the programs you produced afterwards? All of the presentations and interviews that you did afterwards that could never focus on the crux of the matter, that could never identify the real problems, that are just presenting validation. What about the FIA stewards appeal, which was entirely corrupt, which Red Bull were invited into, which Red Bull presented a corrupt argument to validate what took place? What about all that? Oh no, that's just a conspiracy theory. That didn't happen. It did. It actually happened. What about all of the teams that just went along with it? Didn't call out that the rules were being broken. What about the drivers going, oh, we need to get this job done. He's going to mess this thing up. What's this thing? Oh, you're crazy. You're just the conspiracy theorist. Oh, really? It's not a theory. This happened. And these things are supposed to be independent events. No, that many people don't make that many independent events. Independent mistakes. Does not happen. Does not happen.
The end.
Well, that's something that shouldn't be the case.
Absolutely right, Johnny. This shit shouldn't be happening, should it?
Anyway, there are a lot of people, yes, on the radio, a lot of people sort of giving their sort of thoughts on what should happen, when it should happen, because
the comment section of social media.
They're always trying to make it benefit them. You can hear all that radio communication, Daniel Ricciardo, their soft tires didn't work out for him. But for Michael Massey to be the one that is under all the pressure, he's got a lot of things on his plate, he's got a lot of radio communication with all the teams. It's not just the Red Bull and the Mercedes, it's every other team that is sort of on that radio at the same time. He's then talking to the clerk of the course, he's talking to the marshals, all that information's coming back while all those drivers are talking on the radio.
See, Johnny here, what you're doing, Johnny, you are now slipped back into pundit. You're earning your pay now, aren't you, Johnny? Right? You're doing the job that you're paid to do, which is try to provide validation for this. You were authentic by saying this is all wrong, but now you're going, oh, but now I've got to make excuses for Massey. It shouldn't happen, but with all these messages going on and all this communication between the teams and all that going on with the drivers, well, Massey's not listening to the messages between the drivers and the teams, right? Massey's got a clear process to happen. That is, I've deployed the safety car because the track's not safe. There's a car that's crashed at turn 14, so I've deployed the safety car. I now hand this situation over to the clerk of the course. The clerk of the course will oversee the clear-up operation taking place at turn 14. That will require a crane to go onto that track, remove the car and sweep all the debris up, and then checks to be done to the barriers to ensure that they're in the correct condition to be safe. Once he's done that, he will then report back to me, the race director, that that's fine, that's been accomplished, and that the track is now safe to go racing again, and we are in a position to carry out the procedures that are required to be carried out prior to being able to resume racing. So everything else, all these teams on the radio, so-called on the radio, it's irrelevant. Shut up. Not interested. It will be what it will be. Oh, but we said in that little meeting that we wanted to finish as a racing finish. Well, unlucky. Whatever your desires are, these are the rules of the sport. This is the procedure that's got to be carried out. And if it ends behind the safety car because we can't go racing again because there's not enough time left, that's the way it will be. You don't capitulate. But they weren't capitulating. It was an entire contrivance. It was an act. The whole thing is an act.
As well to the teams who are then talking to Michael Massey at the same time. So yes, there is an immense amount of pressure, and yes, there's been a lot of talk about we want to finish the races under green.
Oh, a lot of talk about we want to finish the races under green. Again, this whole show is getting together, contriving endings of the sport. So it's not an authentic sport then. You're admitting that it's a fraudulent sport. It's a fraud. You're defrauding everybody by getting together to have your preferred endings. That's not sport, is it?
But it doesn't always work out that way. I know many races in the past, and the precedent has always been you race as far as you can, unless there is an incident like we saw in Abu Dhabi, where that isn't possible. And
well, there you go. That's what I've been saying all along. Simple, isn't it?
Unless you throw that red flag, like Martin said. But
it wasn't the sort of incident you throw a red flag for. So let's be clear here. You saw in the 2021 season A red flag thrown at Baku, but there was a reason for that. It wasn't, or so we were led to believe, it wasn't just so that you could have a 2-lap shootout at the end. The reason presented to us for throwing the red flag was on the grounds of safety. Max's tyre had blown out. Whilst there was room on track for a safety car snake to pass the incident, they chose to bring the safety car and all the competitors through the pit lane so that incident could be dealt with, because the incident was adjacent to the pit lane, so on that start finish straight. And the proposal was, having seen 2 tyres explode already unexpectedly in that race, what if another one was to explode as those cars were passing through the pits? If it did, that would present a danger, a hazard to those people, the pit crew in that pit lane, and potentially harm could be done. So on the grounds of safety, would it not be better to stop this and allow all of those cars the chance of changing onto different tyres and then just restarting it for 2 laps? That was the reason for that red flag. We also had a red flag in Saudi. Again, we were presented with the notion of it being due to the barriers requiring extended time to repair them. Whether that was the true reason, I highly doubt the situation. We can go back through that, but that was giving Maxwell Verstappen further opportunity. That was more parts of the contrivance. But they were the reasons, they're the stated reasons you'd use a red flag. Or if a driver or somebody out of trackside needed medical assistance, you wouldn't want Formula One cars driving by them at 100 mile an hour every couple of minutes as they were passing by each lap. None of them situations applied. It was a safety car situation. So don't propose red flags.
But there is so much other stuff that is going on for Michael Massey to deal with. But I think it's inexcusable where he can then sort of try and manipulate the rules to try and finish it on a green lap, which is what has been discussed with all the teams at the same time. This
has been discussed with the teams to break the rules of the sport. We're using this word manipulation. You've broken the rules of the sport to facilitate an ending that you've discussed with the teams. Them teams have agreed to it because you've sold it to them. Because that excitement that you've artificially created have not only you've attracted the audience by setting it up for the championship to go down to the last race of the season. So already that's attracted an audience which you wouldn't have had. Then you've created drama in that last race of the season and taken it down to the wire to facilitate the setup of a last lap shootout. So what you've done, you've broken the rules of the sport to contrive the result of that sport. That's a fraud. It's quite simple. And the teams are complicit with the fraud. Why are the teams complicit with the fraud? Well, because they make money. If you attract fans and you keep them fans, because them fans are excited by what they saw, they don't understand what they've seen, but they're excited by it, so they'll continue watching it, you get more money. If that sport is worth more, then you get a bigger share of what that is worth. Your own value of your team becomes more valuable. Each team, on average, has had its value increase from around about 500 million to $1.8 billion is the average value of a Formula One team. That increase has been due to the increase in viewership of the sport. You get more eyes on the sport, you get more sponsors want to be involved in the sport because their products, their brands get seen by a bigger audience. So that's why they want to put their brand in that sphere. They want to say, right, we need to advertise our brand in the space of Formula One. We'll get lots of eyes on there. We might sell loads more stuff by advertising in the sport of Formula One. And then there's competition for them spaces, them advertising spaces on your car. You can charge more money for that. You make more money. Cha-ching! It's a great thing that we've got more fans of the sport. How did we get more fans of the sport? Oh, we made it exciting for them. We aroused the children by abusing them, by lying to them. We targeted their vulnerable minds. That's what you did, you abusive bastards.
This occasion, that wasn't really possible and shouldn't have happened.
Okay, it's the first year, just going back, and actually you wrote about this, Martin, in your article following the race. It's the first year that we've heard direct to broadcast the communications between team principals and the race director. That sort of lobbying that everybody talks about, it can't have helped matters. And I think even Toto said, well, we haven't helped ourselves on this, and maybe that needs to stop going forward. That's one of the things that might need to be adjusted.
100%.
So again, the anchorman, spelt with a W, Lazenby, bringing into the notion of, oh, one of the problems here is that this year we've heard the radio messages between the teams and the race director. The problem is that we're broadcasting those messages to the public. That's not the problem, is it? You see, earlier in the season at Silverstone, when Red Bull were on the radio, vilifying Sir Lewis Hamilton, Sky Sports were saying, oh, it's great that we're getting to hear that this year. Great that we're getting to hear that this year. And then when Toto comes on the radio and that one's played, oh, these teams on the radio sound like they're pressurising the race official, don't they? You know, it's a great thing that we're hearing it when Red Bull are saying it. As soon as Mercedes starts saying, oh yeah, this shouldn't be. It's just not acceptable that Toto Wolff's trying to put pressure on the race director, is it? See the dynamics of that. But that's not the problem. See, what you don't like is that when people can hear it, can understand what's going on, then you can't get away with covering stuff up. Hence, for the 2022 season, we've decided that we're not going to make those messages available to the public. Great solution that is, isn't it? What you don't know about, you won't worry about. There you go. But that's not the reason why Massey broke the rules, is it? But you're presenting it as being, this is part of the problem.
I mean, in the first safety car incident, when Giovinazzi's Alfa Romeo broke down some way from a service road, we had Toto on the radio to Massey saying, hey, Michael, no safety car, trying to influence a safety decision, and completely unacceptable. And Toto knows that. And we.
Okay, was that unacceptable? Yes, it was unacceptable. It was unacceptable. It's the race director's call to decide whether he wants to deal with that incident with yellow flags, with a virtual safety car, or a full safety car. Why did Toto get on the radio? Well, who knows the real reason? Was it all part of the narrative? Increasingly, it's looking that way. At the time, I thought, well, on the grounds of what we've seen over the last three or four races, and the decisions that are being made, which are all in favour of Red Bull, maybe he's just trying to guard against it happening all over again, where, we're going to get a safety car that's going to benefit Red Bull, or we're going to get a red flag that's going to benefit Red Bull. So therefore Toto saying, hey, come on, deal with this in the right way. But he still shouldn't be doing it. Brundle picks that example out as being the one that's totally wrong. We've got the evidence of Wheatley and Horner on the radio to Massey, trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? Coerce him into carrying out the procedure when either at that point in time the track is not safe, because if they were doing it on lap 56, they're pressurising him whilst an actual incident is being dealt with, not ahead of the race director determining which way he's going to deal with it, whether it's going to be via a virtual safety car or a safety car. They are either on the radio to him to coerce him whilst the incident is being cleared up, to coerce him as to how to go about carrying out the procedure, which is totally not acceptable, or they're requesting that he breaks the rules, depending on the exact moment in time that those message exchanges took place. And again, we don't know that. We don't know that. All we know is when F1 TV chose to play us those messages.
We can't have that. What used to happen in the Herbie and Charlie days is they'd get on the radio to Charlie. Herbie would go, "He's busy at the moment. He'll get back to you." And of course he didn't, because Charlie was busy sorting out the mess that was on track and working to understand when the race could be restarted. But for me, that was one of the most...
See what he's just said Charlie Whiting used to do? Well, he was just looking at what was going on track, and when that was sorted, to then determine when it was possible for the race to be restarted. But ahead of that race restarting, you carry out your procedures. Quite simple, isn't it? You're not interested in what teams are trying to get on the radio to try and influence you. It's irrelevant. Michael Massey's got someone sat next to him in race control. They're trying to project that, oh, he's having to deal with this. He's sat there on his own and he's got message after message and everybody's on to him and he just, oh, I don't know what to do here. I can't cope with this. Lies. Utter lies. Look at what you're trying to present as being the situation, which isn't that.
Most uncomfortable aspects of this season, we saw it in Saudi Arabia, Silverstone, team principals up in the steward's office trying to remonstrate with them mid-race. That's got to stop.
Again, he's pointing to Toto Wolff having to go to the stewards to present his diagrams because Michael Massey doesn't access his emails during the race when Toto gets on the radio to him. But when Red Bull are on the radio to Massey to say, everybody knows you don't put a wheel up the inside. Michael, we're very cross here. That's not. Everybody knows you don't put a wheel up the inside at Cops. To Armos, Lewis was totally at fault for that. And Michael Massey goes, understood Christian, understood Jonathan, understood Christian, understood Jonathan. Toto, I don't access my emails. You seen the dynamics going on here? What are these projecting them as?
That is, sitting at home. Can you imagine a manager running on the pitch and remonstrating and telling the referee?
Did you see Toto Wolff running onto the track to remonstrate with the referee? Did you see Christian Horner running onto the track? Do you see managers running onto the pitch? No, you don't. What you will see at football is the manager in his dugout shouting at the referee if they think the decisions are wrong. What does the referee do? Tells them to shut up, or he'll book them if they're shouting too much. Most of the time he just ignores them. He sees what's going on in the game, he applies the rules of the sport and makes his decisions accordingly. Martin is suggesting it's the equivalent, when trying to get on the radio to Michael Massey, it's the equivalent of a football manager running on the pitch to remonstrate with a... What a ridiculous comparison. Absolutely ridiculous. There's a simple solution. You turn the radio off. I've got a team on the radio trying to get to influence my decision. Make a complaint to me. I'm not interested. I'm dealing with something else. Turn that off. Quite simple. A football referee can't do that. He can't turn off a manager shouting at him. He can send them off, but he can't just put them on mute for a bit, can he? And you can easily do that with the Formula One teams. It's a radio communication. Right, just turn the radio off. I've got my job to do. I'm not interested in what they've got to say. If they've got something to say, they can speak to one of the other 10 people in this office, and if it's important, then they'll tell me about it. But I don't need to hear that bullshit while I'm doing my job.
the decisions he's going to be making next. No, you can't have that.
Just because we're hearing it now, it doesn't mean it's happened before. And I suppose it brings us on to the other point, and that is whether we're getting to a point in time now within the sport where entertainment is usurping the sport. This brings us closer than ever before to the action. Maybe some might think that Massey's actions were, again, unfairly focusing on the entertainment at the front and trying to bring those guys together. It wasn't fair for the racing. Is that where we are? Have we reached a tipping point, a crossroads, you think, in the...
Who did it entertain? Who did it entertain? People that don't know what they're watching, don't know about sport. Because if you know about sport, you know that that's not sport. You've not conducted it in accordance with the rules of the sport, so it's not sport. It entertained the strap-on fanboy, who again has watched a couple of episodes of Drive to Survive, plays some racing car games on their computer, and think they are experts of Formula One. And they're entertained by that. They're aroused by it. That's not sport. But that has aroused the audience that you've targeted. It's not sport. You've broken the rules of a sport to contrive an ending. Now it's a fraud. You've sold that sport under false pretense. It's not sport, is it? But do you think that they're focusing more on entertainment now than sport? Look at the way they frame this.
Sport here, Damon.
Advert. Hold on for a second.
Well, I was actually a driver steward one of the early days when at Monaco, when the race actually was going to finish under a safety car, and I could sense the anxiety that was noticeable, that we're going to have this race, and he'd already brought in this rule whereby the safety car was not going to parade the cars over the start and finish line because it looked awful. And I think everyone is in agreement that so we've already taken a decision so that we...
I was a steward and people were anxious that it was going to be a safety car finish. Okay, deal with it. You don't like that it's a safety car finish. You're lucky. You know, what do you expect people to do? Lewis Hamilton's leading the race by 12 seconds. On course to win. The other guy wasn't catching him. So had them 5 laps have just continued as normal, he was on course to win. A car has crashed. We now need to deal with that crash. Oh, we don't like the fact that now they've just got to drive around the track at a slow speed and the race will end without them being able to compete for position. Well, that's the rules of the sport. If it can't be cleared up in time to enable racing to go back to racing, but actually you can't just, having had to intervene in that race in that way and it then affect the positions of them cars, you have to reset the whole field. You can't just go, oh, well, that's caused him to catch up there. Oh, he's been really advantaged, but that one's been really disadvantaged. No, that's not how it works. It's sporting fairness. If this is how we have to intervene on the grounds of safety, then we have to then ensure that the procedures are carried out to ensure sporting fairness. That's how it works. Oh, but I'm anxious about that. Why? Oh, because I want people to think that this is exciting, because people won't like that. If they don't understand that and can't accept that, maybe motorsport isn't for them. Okay? Maybe just take yourself off, stick to your computer games, where it's not valid sport like that. Because there's rules and regulations for a purpose. If you explain that to people, those that can accept it, they'll remain as fans. Those that can't, they can jog on. But what do you want to do? You want to appeal to the strap-on fanboy, don't you? You want to keep lying to them. You want to keep conditioning the brains of people with lies, with falsehoods. But you don't care about that, because as long as their eyes are on the show, as long as you can keep taking money out of their pocket, you don't give a fuck. That's all you care about. You don't care about societal values. You don't care about sporting fairness. You don't care about integrity. You're willing to sell your tongue for a corrupt fucking enterprise. That's the kind of snake you are. A mercenary. Filthy bastard.
We don't have cars finishing behind the safety car in that fashion, and they're able to make a dash for the line at least. So that is pandering to the excitement already. So whether or not this is an influencing factor in Michael Massey's decision, I would say yes. I think that they'd already had.
Oh, I think what was going through Michael Massey's head was that he was mindful of creating a spectacle and a show. Well, that's, as I've already stated, when a referee of a football match referees a football match, what's not to go through his head is, how can I make this game exciting for the fans? That's not the referee's role. The referee's role is to officiate the match. It's the role of the competitors to actually play sport. That sport may make the fans excited. It may not. It might make some fans excited because they're the ones that get to see the result they want. It might make some fans disappointed because their team loses. It's called sport. That's the nature of it. That's why people invest their time and emotion and money into it, because that is sport. It's not for the referee to say, oh, this game looks to be ending a 0-0 draw. That's not a spectacle. That's not exciting. How can I make this more exciting? What can I do to make this exciting? To make some goals happen so everybody will be excited. Oh, I will just give this team a goal. Well, that's going to make some people excited, but some people disappointed. Oh, but that team's paid me the money. I'm friends with that team, so I will act on their behalf so that they win. Oh, what's happening there? That's a contrivance. That's corruption. Oh, is that conspiracy theory? No, it's just an example that is a parallel example to what's happened in Formula One. A clear example, really, isn't it? But these four people, they can't tell it you like that. They're not paid to tell it you like that. They're paid to get you to accept it.
Meetings in the early part of the season about letting them race. In other words, arguments over how much aggression drivers could exhibit on the track.
How much aggression? So let's go through that season. Who drove other cars off the track in the same way that Max Verstappen did to Lewis Hamilton? Pretty much Max Verstappen was the only one that did it in that manner, and the other drivers that did anything resembling that got penalised for it, but not Max. But that's this mantra of let them race. No, it's not let them race. It's let Max try to ram Lewis off the track. That's the real mantra, but you have to describe that as let them race.
Track and whether we were just being too soft, in expecting them to stay within the white line.
Oh, we're being too soft. We like to see hard racing, don't we? Because we're all racing fans. And if you're a true, real motor racing fans, that's what you want to see. Proper racing. No. I don't want to see people die. I've seen that. It's not what it's about, is it? It's about sport. It's about conducting sport in the right way. It's about setting the example to kids. It's setting the example so that kids don't replicate the sorts of things that are going to cause injuries and deaths. You stamp that shit out. You set the example. You're the FIA. You're the governing body of a sport. You pretend that you care about road safety, motoring. You do nothing of the sort. You also pretend that you're against online abuse, and yet you've overseen it. You've perpetrated a crime that has resulted in online abuse. But all you do is you put your hashtag up. Yeah, we're against that. Yeah. So you've caused it. Yeah, but we're against it, but you've caused it.
lines and all this business, because it's actually robbing the fans of the excitement that they want. So we're already.
But it's robbing the fans of the excitement that they want. Just told you about football. It's not down to the sport to create the excitement. It's not down to the referee to create the excitement. It's down to what happens as that sport is played out as a sport. The rules need to be applied where they need to be applied. Simple as that. Not manipulated to artificially manufacture excitement.
In this season, at least, making allowances for the entertainment value.
Making allowance. Look at what they're doing. Everything's an excuse. And all of these excuses can be unpicked and obliterated. Let's get to court, Damon. Let's get to court. Let me just fuck me. Let me just rip this cunt apart in a courtroom. Come and say this in a court, you corrupt prick.
The question is whether that is transgressing what is fair. From
That's a question, is it? Well, I can answer that. Yes, it's transgressing what's. Would you like to propose that as a question to us all? Oh, let's have a debate and let me know what you think in the comments section. Fuck off, you prick. The question is, it's not a question, is it? It's not a question. It's clearly not fair.
From a sporting point of view, and the FIA's job is not to make the race entertaining. The FIA's job.
Funny that, isn't it? Funny that. You see, I have watched this through, but I'd forgotten some of the things he said. So I'm just responding to what I'm seeing and responding to it now. And then obviously, clearly, he's saying stuff. And I'm like, well, that's clearly correlative with how I've just described it. So you've come up with these notions and then you backtrack. But you throw them out there as talking points. Oh, should we be feeling that? But then they shouldn't be doing that. But should we be feeling this? And are they doing that? But they shouldn't be doing that. Look at what you're doing. No. Call it out. Identify exactly what is wrong rather than propose validation, excuse, and reason for what has happened. But that is what you are contracted to do. You're part of the media matrix paid to condition people to accept this.
Is to ensure safety and fairness.
Funny that, isn't it? That's the role of the FIA. Make sure that sport is carried out in accordance with the rules, fairness, and in a safe manner. That's their role. Not to manufacture excitement.
That's their job.
Let's go back to Baku, Azerbaijan. You know, that last lap dash that we had because we had a red flag. And then, that was for me, that was good that Formula One got that race back underway. So, you need to take the rough with the.
Why was that a red flag, Brundle? Oh, it's the rough with the smooth. Okay, it was good for you. I'm sure you loved the fact that Lewis Hamilton lost 18 points. It was possible for them to just red flag the race and declare the result, not restart it, because when a race is red flagged that close to the end of it, you say, well, we've pretty much completed this race to 90% of its distance, and that's the running order. That's most likely where the finishing order would have been, so we're going to declare that as the finish order. Oh, Lewis lost 18 points there. Oh, you've got to take the rough with the smooth. That was great, wasn't it? You like that, don't you, Brundle? But what was the reason for the red flag? Well, I've described that. It's not the comparable situation, is it? But you want to throw that in. You want to throw that in to be argued about in the comment section of social media. So F1 can continue to trend. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
The smooth. For years, decades, I heard, Formula One's boring. I watch the pre-race, the first lap or two, and I go back and see what happens at the end. There is an element. Just
okay. So if people are bored by it, maybe it's not the sport for them. So what we'd do would decide to now lie about the sport and break the rules so that more people are excited by it. No. If that's what you're going to do, you're not a sport. You've got a good governing body that's not fit to govern it. You've got competitors that are willing to participate in something where the rules are being broken, and you're defrauding people by selling it as a sport when it's not a sport.
Just like with 2020 cricket or with other sports, of energizing your sport and try.
So what do you do with that? You create a new version of it. You say, okay, we are going to create this new version of sport where it will be contested over 20 overs. Okay, called 2020 cricket. We don't say, oh, this is the 50 over championship, and then what you do is you're playing a 50 over game, and 20 overs into it, go, right, we're changing this now. Your team has batted for 20 overs, even though you'd set yourself up to bat for 50, and you're 100 for 1 off 20 overs. But we're now going to make this a 20 over game. So that's the end of your innings. And now we're going to give the other team 20 overs with all of their 11 wickets in hand. Okay. And they've got to score 100 to win the game. It's 2020 cricket, and we've just energised the sport. No, what you've done, you've bastardised the sport there. The other team had set themselves up to bat for 50 overs and not lose wickets in the first 20. They're 100 for 1. They were building an innings. That's what you do in 50 over cricket. You change the rules and say, well, the other team, it's now your turn to bat. You've got to score more than 100 runs in your 20 overs, right? But you've got all of your batsmen, so they can just come out swinging. And they'll score 200 in 20 overs, but they won't need to because they only need to score 101 and they've won the game. Oh, what a great game that was. We've energised it. No, you've bastardised it, and it's not in accordance with the rules of the sport. Don't compare it with when they modify a sport because they declare the parameters of the new rules of that version of the sport, Brundle. This is not comparable. This is not comparable. Anyway, I'm mindful of how long this one's gone on, so I'm going to cut this one off at here and continue with more parts to this to get through to its completion. We're literally almost 22 minutes into this now, so not even a third of the way through, and this is about the fourth part, something like that. It's a lot to break down, and they've not introduced the other faces. I'm sure we've got Crofty to come, along with all the other bullshitters as part of the Sky Sports F1 crew. Anyway, next one will be coming along pretty soon.